kind of have tweaked my message just a little bit to really apply to what many of you I'm sure are feeling, which is fear, uncertainty, and a lot of worry and stress. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to relate some of my past experiences to what we're experiencing right now. And I'm sure many of you have past experiences that you can bring into this experience that we are all having right now and figure out what the lessons are within. I recently did a podcast episode 81, talking more about my thoughts and mentality that I'm trying to uphold during this time with the coronavirus. So if you want to check that out, I go into more detail there. We are in this stage right now where we desperately want it to be better, and we want out of it. We don't want to be quarantined anymore. We don't want to have to homeschool our kids, and we don't want to have to worry about getting the coronavirus and all that, the uncertainty of what's going to happen with the economy and many businesses and all that. So there's a lot of things that I know is stirring around in our minds right now. But I wanted to start off by putting your mind at ease that history has shown us time and time again that we as a human race are very resilient and we are adaptive. So if we take a look at history, we've been through this all before. So we don't have to, I guess we don't have to jump to like the idea that this is the end of the world, like what's going to happen to us and all that. So I know that we can quickly jump to like the worst case scenario. But I wanted to read something that I saw my friend posted yesterday. It was by a woman named Kitty O'Meara. She says, "And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and grew gardens full of fresh food and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows. And the people began to think differently, and the people healed. And in the absence of living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed." I really like to connect this to Eckhart Tolle's teachings. I'm sure many of you are familiar with him. I love his book, A New Earth, and I feel like now is the time where a new earth is being born. And that's the optimistic way of seeing this crisis. There are actually a few chapters in my book that relate to what we're going through right now with COVID-19, being quarantined, having to homeschool. I actually have a chapter on homeschooling, my attempt to homeschool. So that actually might be useful right now, the things that I learned from trying to homeschool my kids at one point. And so much of the uncertainty that we are experiencing worldwide. I talk about change, and I share a story about my breakdown before I had a breakthrough, which is the story I want to share right now. So a couple years ago, I had an existential crisis, and it was which triggered a panic attack that was unlike anything I had ever experienced. So I wanted to just read a short segment of that part in my book. "We all know that we create our own realities, and what we think and believe is truly the baseline of what is actually real. So even though I knew this, it was hard to find thoughts that I could believe. Saying what you want to think in order to feel better doesn't necessarily work unless you can believe it. Faith is difficult to obtain when you're in complete darkness. But I now understand that experiencing the darkness is often what it takes in order to discover the light from within. As I've said before, my breakthrough was the result of a breakdown. I had a full-on panic attack. I experienced this on an airplane once, but at least the flight was only an hour long and I could get off and know I was safe. This recent panic attack felt the exact same, except it didn't go away after an hour or even a day. I felt that tightness in my stomach, the jitters in my body. I was sweating, crying, and pacing, and I felt nauseated, lightheaded, and like I was literally going insane. I tried to eat, hoping it would settle my stomach, but all I could manage to swallow were a few bites of bread or a cracker here and there. My mouth was so dry that I could barely get it down. I really felt like I couldn't go on. Not that I was thinking suicidal thoughts or anything, but I literally thought this feeling was going to take me down completely. When I traced back what happened that sent me into a downward spiral, I knew exactly what it was. It wasn't just one thing, but rather a series of events. I had been reading many books lately, trying to gain all the knowledge I could to provide inspiration as I write this book and create weekly podcast episodes. Little by little, I was becoming more open in my beliefs. I began to see things in a new light. It was fascinating and exciting all at the same time. Until one moment, I asked myself, what if God doesn't even exist? What if everything we've believed has all been made up? This is something I never questioned before in my entire life because of the religious influence I was exposed to. I've just believed because everyone else believed. But when I thought this thought and imagined my life without God, it was just too much for my brain to handle. It's as though I asked this question and then instantly latched onto the belief that God didn't exist. I felt unbelievably small, alone, and overwhelmed with darkness, wondering why I was here and whether I really have a purpose. I felt like I was literally falling down a black hole and desperately trying to find something to grab onto, but there was nothing, at least for a while. The turning point came when I finally started to relax into the fear. Let's all breathe. Take a moment to breathe. It felt like I was falling, but I was able to relax and enjoy it at the same time, as if I were skydiving, knowing that I had a parachute attached to me and I would safely land when the time was right. As I allowed the discomfort of fear to flow through me, and as I quit resisting it, that's when I was able to take control of my mind once again. I found my core belief in God, not the God that everyone taught me to believe in, but my very own version of God. It was incredibly empowering to discover this from within and not based on anything I was taught growing up. Fear is excitement without the breath. I heard this in one of the books I've listened to recently called The Big Leap. I thought it was absolutely brilliant and made so much sense to me. Just as a roller coaster ride is exhilarating, so can be the feeling of fear. When we hold our breath, we transition into fear. So when we find ourselves overwhelmed with fear, we simply need to breathe. Let's take another deep breath, everybody. And we drop back down to the feeling of excitement. So what I realized at that moment was that I was living in a reality that somebody else created for me. And it was scary to have that realization. It was the scariest thing I ever experienced because it was basically ripping away all of my beliefs, everything that I ever believed my entire life. And I had to finally, for the first time in my life, connect with my inner being and find that solace within myself instead of always looking to other people to give me that. And it was the worst, yet the most empowering experience of my life up until to this point. So the moral of the story is that your darkest hour turns out to be a gift. What I've learned is that a crisis is a birth. Think about it. Childbirth is one of the most physically taxing and painful experiences one can endure. And if we didn't know we were birthing a child, we actually might think we were dying. And if we compare this what looks like is mass destruction and excruciating pain, we can see that on the other side of it is actually something new being born. And that's how I see this whole thing. If we, for a moment, when I don't watch the news, so because I know that I am deeply affected by anything that doesn't have like a positive vibe to it. And I just want to know that everything's going to be okay. And the news doesn't always do that. You know, they love drama. They're really good at instilling fear. And I know that I believe a little fear is healthy to keep us all safe and aware. But for me, it's just too much. So I don't watch the news just to protect my well-being. So when I hear bits and pieces through social media or through my kids or just friends, and so I get the information enough for what I need to know to keep us safe. But initially, when I heard that school was being canceled, and then when I went to the store and saw that so much was gone, it kind of sent me a little bit like, oh my gosh, like I really kind of felt this panic attack coming on again. But I quickly stopped myself because I had to be aware of the narrative, the story that I was telling myself in my mind. And that's one thing that I learned from my panic attack the first time, and that I was feeding myself devastating stories. And the best thing that we can do is find stories that resonate with us. So a story that resonates for me, instead of thinking, I like to think that this is an exciting time right now. We have new opportunities are emerging from this, and a new earth, a new you, and is being born. And I also like to compare this a crisis to the cycle of a butterfly. And it's funny because I didn't actually know that. I used to think that a caterpillar goes into the cocoon and grows wings and then becomes a butterfly. I didn't know that a caterpillar goes into the cocoon and completely melts down. And if you were to cut it open and look inside, you'd see it would look like complete chaos and destruction. And you wouldn't think, oh my gosh, nothing could survive from that. Nothing is going to emerge from this liquid fluid that's inside there. But that's the process. It completely melts down and then forms into an entirely new creature. And that's how I like to look at this whole thing. Like, this is a great opportunity for us all to wake up a little bit more and to see the things that, maybe we have new opportunities if we, our business goes under or we lose our job. This is it's like when one door closes, another one opens. So I think it's important that we maintain that kind of mentality around this, and always breathe. Breathing is so important, so powerful. And I love what Byron Katie teaches, that we only suffer when we resist reality. And she always says that when we argue with reality, we lose, but only 100% of the time. So it's about accepting what is, and having an optimistic outlook on this whole situation, breathing through the fear and the unknown. The unknown is a scary place to be, but it is actually the most exciting place to be, because what is unknown is there's new things to be discovered, and that is really exciting. I mean, how boring would life be if we just knew everything and there was nothing else to discover? So we have to be in this place of being comfortable with the discomfort of the unknown, so that new things can emerge. I just wanted to share a few tips on how we can, number one, it's most important to take care of our mental health. Our mental health is the most important thing, I think, at this time for us to stay centered, because your mental health has a huge effect on your immune system. So if we are taking care of our mental health, which I know many of you are, because you wouldn't be part of this group if you weren't the type of woman who cares about your mental well-being, and you want to grow, you want to learn, you want to overcome. And I love that there are so many amazing women that are in this group that just want to grow. So when we take care of our minds, we will be strengthening our immune system. And it's important that we get outside in nature, exercise. Anytime you're feeling stressed or depressed, get outside in nature and exercise. Get your body moving. Breathing exercises. I've been making it a daily practice to do breathing exercises. There's so many great guided breathing videos on YouTube that I use. They're just like 5-10 minutes long to help you stay oxygenated for the brain, and which definitely has an effect on your immune system. Eating healthy, lots of fresh fruits and veggies, and I know they might not be as abundant or available at the stores right now, but isn't this such a great time to start your garden? Get some pots. If you don't have space in your yard, get some pots and some soil and some seeds and start a garden. Like, just getting your hands in the dirt, being outside, watching something grow, and then getting to eat your perfectly organic fruits and vegetables is very exciting. I love it. I'm really like into my garden this year. I've been starting my indoor garden. I started my indoor garden just a few weeks ago, and I'm just getting really excited about watching my garden grow this year. Cold showers. Is there anyone here who has incorporated cold showers into your daily routine? This is something that I've been trying to do for the past year. It was harder to do it over the winter. It's hard to get in a cold shower when it's freezing cold outside. But as the weather's starting to warm up, I'm finding myself motivated to do it once again. And we have a pool, and it's not heated yet, so I've been using my pool to do like a cold plunge. And if you are new to all of this and don't understand what the benefits are to doing a cold plunge or an ice bath or a cold shower, search Wim Hof or the Iceman on YouTube, and you'll learn all the amazing benefits of cold therapy that Wim Hof teaches. One of the best things you can do when you're feeling anxiety, depression, or feel like a panic attack coming on, get in a cold shower. It totally shocks the nervous system and it resets everything. Like, you step out of the shower and you're just like, whew, you feel good. So that's just one tip, that if you feel like this, if I would have known that when I was having my panic attack, I think it would have really helped me through that. So any of the emotions that we have, don't be afraid of it. Breathe through it. Let it be there, because energy is only, all of our emotions is only energy, and everything, energy is always moving. So that's another thing that really helped me as I was going through this intense fear. I knew that this always passes. It always passes. Like, this is not going to stay like this all the time. That's the thought I kept telling myself. Okay, well, it will pass. It will pass. And so as long as I knew that it would pass, then I felt so much comfort around just having that belief. And it is true that it is just an emotion, and energy in motion is always moving. So don't be afraid that this feeling or whatever you're experiencing right now is going to last forever, because it's just not possible. I think it's important that we maintain having that sense of purpose, and that's why I felt that it had such a huge impact on me once I felt like, well, maybe there is no purpose to life, maybe there is no God, and everything's just random. Like, that was so devastating for me to believe that, because then I was like, well, why am I even here? Why does it matter if I try to live my best life if there's no purpose, if we all die and then that's just it? So I had to find I had to create my own new reality. I had to reconstruct after I deconstructed everything, and I started with a blank canvas, and I slowly built on things that I just grabbed from different religions, different books, different gurus and spiritual leaders, and I just created my very own, like, personal religion, like, that's just my own. Like, nobody else has what I have. Everybody's is very unique, and that's what I love about spirituality, is that we can all be on our own unique spiritual path that looks very different from every person, but that's what's so exciting, because we can learn from different perspectives. We can see different perspectives through other people, and I love that. So I love what Viktor Frankl says. That's another book I recommend, A Man's Search for Meaning. I'm sure many of you have already read it, but I love how he says that suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning. So take your mess and turn it into your message. And I think that's one thing that we can do for everybody as we collectively practice gratitude and have a positive outlook on this whole situation, and we relax through the fear and the stress and the anxiety, and we just let it be what it is right now, knowing that something beautiful is about to emerge when we get right in our minds, in our well-being. Then we can have a profound impact on so many other people. And I think that's what everybody's searching for right now. They just want, they need to turn that news off and listen to people that have a positive perspective and outlook on this whole situation. We need more people speaking up about the positive parts that we can take from this whole experience and give people hope. Hope is like what we need most right now. And I think as we heal ourselves, we are more empowered to heal others. And this is a time right now where many people are needing that. We need connection, we need hope, and most importantly, we need love. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you. I hope to meet many of you in person. My book is available on Amazon, also on Audible. It just barely went up on Audible. Really excited about that. But if you guys want to listen to my podcast too, it's called Wannabe Balanced, and I share my whole journey there, my whole faith transition, my existential crisis. It's all there, my whole story. And but yeah, I'd love to connect with more of you in this group and maybe even interview some of you guys on my podcast. All right, thanks you guys for watching. See you later.